Hello again, everyone. I know it's been a minute since I last put up a video, and if you are one of my more dedicated followers of my channel, I know there's not many. I've got like 600 something subscribers. But if you are one of the more dedicated followers of my channel, you like my channel, sorry I haven't put up a video in a while. If you, for those of you that don't know, about end of February 2022, me and my wife made a big move. It involved a 3-day drive for us, and we we did that move end of February, beginning of March, and it took me from then to about the very end of August for me to lock down a very specific job that I wanted to get, and I managed to get it. And that job came with a 14-week training program that I had to go through to then do that job. I am currently about to start week 11 of that 14-week program, so I feel like I've got a good handle on it. I don't want to jinx it by saying it's like no problem, but I've got a good handle on it, so I feel like I can start making videos again. So yeah, that's what's been going on with me. Now, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, we're going to talk about the She-Hulk show. And it's going to be a shorter review because my thoughts on it are pretty cut and dry. All of the any reviewer that is bound by forces, outside forces, and what I mean by that is like if you work for Rotten Tomatoes, if you work for um, if you have sponsors, if you answer to other people, you're not totally independent. Those kind of people, they have been praising the show, saying like it's revolutionary, it breaks boundaries, blah blah blah. And then people who are pretty much like they're their own boss and they run their YouTube channel and maybe they have sponsors, but their sponsors give them the freedom to say what they want. Those people, and they don't have to worry about losing their sponsors and stuff like that. They don't have a boss. They have to worry about coming down on them. Those kinds of people have just been just dragging this show through the mud. And I'm not really going to do either of those things. I'm just going to tell you guys what the deal is with this show. And the fact of the matter is, the She-Hulk show, it is a Marvel Cinematic Universe show that's made exclusively for a very specific, very niche group of the MCU fandom. And that group is, to sum it up, by and large, that group is women, but more specifically, it's the kind of women that are like, you know, they're very progressive, very I don't want to say anti-men, because that's not at all what this show, the vibe that this show gives off. It's not quite exactly anti-men, but it's the kind of woman that like they're very pro-woman, girl power. Women have been oppressed, women have been trampled on, and I'm not saying they haven't. I'm just saying that's who this show is for. It's primarily for women, and most specifically women like that. 2022 progressive women. This is demonstrated by a couple of things. One, She-Hulk, the character in the show, it's not like vulgar, it's not graphic, but the character, she has I hesitate to use the word promiscuous because that sounds negative, but she has a sex life. Like in the show, I think it is made very clear. It doesn't show the action, but it is made very clear that she's out there getting after it. Like I think there's 3 different dudes in the show that she hooks up with, Daredevil being one of them. Um, so it's kind of, pushing boundaries in that way. It's like, hey, women can have recreational, casual sex too. It's not just a man thing. Men can have the casual sex, but if women do it, they're sluts. No, this is like women can do it too. Uh, so there's that in there. Also, I can't remember if it's the very first episode or the second episode, where the Hulk is like Bruce Banner, the Hulk. He's like blown away. He's very surprised by the fact that Jen, his cousin, She-Hulk, she's kind of mastered control of her Hulk form like that. And the reasoning for how she's done this is simply this: it's women have harder lives regularly. Like just You just pick a random woman out of the average public, and you pick a random men out of the average public. The woman has it harder, generally speaking. And because the women have harder lives and they deal with more shit that makes them angry, they're better at controlling their emotions and holding in their anger. Uh, it's shit like that that tells you exactly who this show is for. It's for women who think like that, and that seems a little very black and white to me. I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's like many, 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 many different shades of gray. I think, difficulty and who's got a harder life, I think that varies greatly depending on just who you happen to pull from the population to use as an example. But I don't think there's any real evidence to support that if you just randomly pick a woman out of society and randomly pick a man, you compare them, the woman's got a harder, more difficult life. I don't think that's true at all. Um, I definitely think there are things women have to deal with in life that men don't understand the hardship of. But the flip side of that is true too. There's things that men have to deal with that women don't understand the hardship of. So it's not as clear cut and dry, black and white as they're trying to make it out to be. Is their excuse for why she was able to master her Hulk form so fast is, I think, it's bullshit. But it's for women. It's a very women positive, feel good about being a woman kind of statement. We're strong. We handle shit. Like, we handle way more shit than men. Another thing that tells me it's made for women is, I shit you not, there is a. I'm gonna stop here for a minute and make something very clear. I watched this show for Daredevil. All right, if they had not revealed in that like Comic-Con trailer or whatever that Daredevil was going to be in this show, I would not have watched it. I I I, I probably would have tuned in for episode 1 just to see her origin for the MCU and see how she becomes She-Hulk and whatnot. Uh, but I was watching it for Daredevil, and watched episode 1, no Daredevil. I knew there wouldn't be. Episode 2, still no Daredevil. Okay, not a big surprise. Episode 3, still no Daredevil. All right, well, we better be getting close. Episode 4, still no Daredevil. Uh, it was around episode 4 or 5. I'll tell you what it was. Uh, it was an episode of the show where She-Hulk goes to a friend's wedding. That's the episode. She goes to a friend's wedding and there's like drama because the best friend doesn't want her stealing the spotlight of her big special day with her She-Hulkness. So yeah, and it's like that's okay. Once again, like it's for women. There are women out there who will eat that kind of drama and shit up. You know, it's for women. Let's tackle. What would it be like for a superhero to have to go to a wedding? That's you know, most male fans wouldn't give a fuck about that concept. So it's for women. Uh, Once I got to that episode though about the wedding, that's when I kind of just stopped watching the episodes, and I would just whenever a new one came out, I would turn it on and I would just fast forward and I would just be looking at the little images across the screen. I'd be like, no Daredevil, no Daredevil, no Daredevil, no Daredevil. Okay, next week. Wait till next week. So yeah, what else? Oh, the main like the bad guy or the evil the antagonist and his like organization called Intelligentsia, very much so this like cis male uh toxic masculinity, or at least that's what they're going for, kind of villain. Like at one point they refer to like refer they re- the show refers to the way that some people refer to women as females, and they do it very negatively. Like this guy has to infiltrate this like very cis male toxic masculinity organization called Intelligentsia, and they're giving him advice and tips on like how to best infiltrate it and seem like he belongs there, and they tell him make sure to refer to women as females. um so for those of you who like, you're not veterans, and I'm not trying to like brag or anything, but that whole like female referring to females as females and referring to males as males, that comes from the military. Because in the military, when they assign terminology to shit, it's aside from like, your little like, each branch has its own little like specific lingo and jargon and whatnot. But like in the Navy, which is what I was in, we would call for some reason, like the Navy slang, Navy lingo for a water fountain was a scuttlebutt. We never called it that because I was in the Navy during like 2017 to 2021, and we were over that shit by then. So, yeah, uh, it's little shit like that. But for the most part, in the military, terminology and assigning labels to things is very cut and dry, and they look for the most clear, cut and dry, concise way to refer to shit. And the easiest way is male and female. Those are biological, scientific biological designations for biological life, male and female. And a significant portion of our population have served in the military and they are veterans. And so that starts to bleed out into the rest of society. So that's where that comes from. It's not this like it's not this anti-women sexist misogynist thing that the show seems to think it is. It's just that's a military thing. So so yeah. Now, that is everything I've just talked about and all the evidence I've given as to like that this show is for women, and more specifically, it's for a very niche select group of women. Like I have no doubt my wife would be kind of bored by this She-Hulk show. Even though she's a woman, she'd be kind of bored by it because she'd be like, I thought this was a superhero show. Like if I wanted to watch some like female drama shit, I would have just turned on a different show. Like I'm watching Marvel for superhero stuff. But no, I get it. There's some people that think that like in big franchises like Marvel, DC, Star Wars, there has to be representation of everything from all walks of human society. So fuck it, we got the She-Hulk show and it's for this very specific group of women. Now, that is why I did not like the show. However, I'm not, if you're not familiar with my channel, usually when I don't like stuff, I tend to just rake it over the coals and go in on it. I don't really feel the need to do that with the She-Hulk show because I thought about it and I was like, you know what? Even though this show is, I'm gonna call it bad, but it's bad in the sense that like when you have a big property like Marvel stuff, DC stuff, Star Wars stuff, big franchise type stuff, with those kind of things, your goal should be to please and entertain the largest amount of people possible. That way you make the biggest amount of money. Like that's what these things are for. All right, if you want to do your own little artsy fartsy creative unique thing, then you go off and you invent and you create your own brand new thing with a brand new setting and brand new characters and everything. It's your own thing. You don't try to take a well-established franchise with decades upon decades of precedent and history and change it. But in the day and age we're living in, that's what people think you should do. And does the show try to do that? Does it try to take something like Marvel that has decades upon decades of precedent and history and make it into some new age 2022 bullshit? Yeah, it does, but I'm not that mad about it because there's nothing other than She-Hulk's introduction, other than like the very first episode that shows you how she became She-Hulk. There's nothing in this show that is that's relevant to the rest of the greater MCU. Nothing. Nothing else. Not even Daredevil's little episode that he was in, because guess what? If you want to be introduced to Daredevil, you can just watch the Daredevil series that was originally on Netflix. It's on Disney Plus now, but you could just watch that. You don't need to watch She-Hulk to be introduced to Daredevil. You don't need to watch She-Hulk for anything other than to just see how She-Hulk came to be She-Hulk. And that gets covered in episode 1. So the rest of this entire show is just fluff. Useless, irrelevant fluff. And when it comes to useless, irrelevant, unimportant fluff, I don't really care if it has some weird, unique agenda because it doesn't matter. It's fluff. There's nothing else in this show that matters. Not even, not at all. You could just watch episode 1 and the Daredevil episode if you want to. You don't need to, but you could watch just episode 1. You could watch just episode 1 of She-Hulk just to see how she becomes She-Hulk, and then you could just never watch any of the other episodes ever, and you'd be fine. Later on in other Marvel movies and shit, when she shows up, you're not gonna be confused by anything. You know, okay, so I will say this: you should watch the Daredevil show or the Daredevil episode of She-Hulk because uh, it's looking like, based on how the She-Hulk show ended, it's looking like those two are going to kind of be in a relationship. She-Hulk and Daredevil will, but that's not that important of a factor either. Like if you, let's say you watched episode 1 of She-Hulk and then you did not watch the rest of the show, and then you go to see the next Avengers movie whenever it comes out and She-Hulk and Daredevil are there and they're like making out and they're a couple, is that really going to blow you away? Are you really going to be like, well, wait a minute, where did this fucking come from? Like, no, you're not really going to care. You're going to be like, okay, I guess Daredevil and She-Hulk are together or whatever. So it's really not that big of a deal, but it is there. My point is though, is this show good in the sense that like it was it was made to please a vast majority of the audience. It was made to please and entertain the vast majority of the Marvel Cinematic Universe fandom. No, in that respect, it's not good, and that's the most objective way to judge the show. Is does it please the vast majority of the fandom? No, it's not good in that sense, but it doesn't. It also doesn't displease the fandom, or it shouldn't, because it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. You can ignore the whole fucking show pretty much. It doesn't matter. It has no serious repercussions or implications for the MCU. And I gotta say, thank God for that, because the finale was awful. It's honestly, with how bad the finale was, it's better if you just pretend like there's only one episode of She-Hulk. Um, for those of you who don't know, haven't seen the finale, uh, She-Hulk breaks the fourth wall in a major way. Like she exits her own show. Like all of a sudden it cuts to the Disney Plus home screen and the Marvel page of the Disney Plus app, and she kicks out the logo on the screen for her show, crawls out of that, and jumps down into this other icon on the Marvel Disney Plus page. And she goes into this other show called like First Look or Behind the Scenes or some bullshit. And she exits her own show and goes into what's supposed to be real life. And she goes and talks to the own writers of her show, who are a majority of them are women. And she asks to talk to Kevin, and then she goes to Kevin, and we all know it's meant to be Kevin Feige, but it's I forget what the acronym stands for, KEVIN, but it turns out to be this like AI robot that's constructing the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the acronym is Kevin, KEVIN, but I forget what that stands for. And they're making it a joke. It's like a film franchise this formulaic. Films that are made in this cookie cutter formula method have to come from some kind of fucking robot. That's the metaphor that's supposed to be being said here. And she basically goes in there and she confronts the Kevin robot. And she's like, why does it always have to be this cookie cutter formula that we follow? Why can't we try shit new and blah, 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 blah. That question has been posed a million times throughout the history of blockbuster, high budget franchise entertainment. And the answer to that question is, I already answered it in this video, but I'll answer it again. The answer to that question is you are more than welcome to try new things and innovate and be creative, just not with well established shit. Don't try to get all creative and innovative with something like Marvel, that is a well established thing with decades of precedent and history. Don't do that. If you want to be creative and innovative, go make your own fucking brand new, unique, different thing. So, yeah. And yeah, my only other thing I want to say about it is uh, the fact that this show, the She-Hulk show, even got made the way that it is it's not a sign. Some people are saying like this is an indicator that Marvel's best years are in the past. That's not what this is. This is They had a giant epic tale, a giant epic story, a narrative planned out that was the Infinity Saga. That ended. And now they needed to plan out a new epic saga, which is the multiverse saga. They've revealed it, they've announced it. That takes time. In the time it takes them to plan that stuff out, they have to fill that void with something. So that's what era we've been living in. It's the era of who's got an idea for a Disney Plus Marvel show? I've got one about She-Hulk. Do you want to hear it? No, we don't need to fucking hear it. Just fucking make it. We got to put some shit out here while we plan this next big, like real big epic thing. That's the era we've been living with. That's why She-Hulk is not that great. That's why Moon Knight sucked. That's why Falcon and the Winter Soldier was bleh. That's why Spider-Man No Way Home was this mishmash story that didn't, when you really stop and think about it, makes no fucking sense. But they just distracted everyone with the actors, the Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, all the villains coming back. They were like, hopefully this is enough distraction to like to keep people distracted from the fact that this story and this narrative makes absolutely no fucking sense. So that's the era of Marvel we've been living with, but it's not indicative that Marvel's like down and out. It's just they have to plan a new big epic saga. That takes time. It's gonna come back, I promise. I'm very confident that it's gonna come back, and I'm very confident that the multiverse saga is gonna pay off in the end with another. Like, who knows if it'll ever top Endgame? Like, it was such a iconic moment in cinema, in entertainment. Who knows if it'll ever top that? But I have faith that the multiverse saga will overall be thought of as like good, and it will be a nice addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe right alongside the Infinity Saga. I'm confident in that. So for those of you who are starting to have doubts, just be patient, stick with it. I think it's going to pan out and be okay. But that's my thoughts on She-Hulk. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. Leave some comments below. Get the discussion started. If you like this video, please hit that like button and the notification bell. That really helps out my channel. If you want to help out my channel even more, check out some of the other videos and maybe subscribe. But other than that, I'll talk to you all later.